Captain Elias Ward had always believed his life on the frontier planet was quiet. His small research outpost sat on the edge of a lush valley, far from the bustling spaceports and busy human colonies. The outpost sensors usually picked up storms, wildlife, or the occasional rogue drone, but nothing prepared Elias for what arrived that night. It began with a tremor in the ground, subtle at first but growing stronger by the second. Alarms flashed across the control panels, signaling something enormous was approaching. Elias ran to the observation deck, expecting to see a meteor or maybe a malfunctioning transport ship. Instead, his eyes widened in disbelief. A creature unlike anything he had ever imagined was moving through the valley. It was a dragon, a real dragon. Not a mechanical replica or a hologram. Its massive wings were folded against its body, each scale glinting like polished metal under the planet's twin moons. Its eyes were deep and intelligent, filled with a strange mix of fear and urgency. And beside it, a smaller form struggled to keep up. It was a cub, weak and trembling, its tiny body shaking as it tried to follow its mother. Elias's heart pounded. He knew the stories. Dragons had been considered myths, legends told to children on old Earth. People had believed they were extinct or simply never existed outside fantasy holobooks. And yet here it was standing before him, enormous and alive. But what shocked him most was not its size or its power, it was the creature's behavior. The mother dragon moved with care, as if every step could harm her cub. When she reached the edge of the plateau near the outpost, she looked at Elias. He froze. The dragon was not attacking. It did not roar or try to strike. Instead, it lowered its head, eyes locking with his, almost begging. And then, in a motion so gentle it seemed impossible for a creature of that size, the mother nudged her cub toward the outpost gates. Elias's training screamed at him to stay back. He had seen alien species before, some dangerous, some deadly. He knew better than to approach unknown life forms alone. But something about the dragon's eyes made him hesitate. There was fear there, yes, but also desperation. This was not a predator or a threat. This was a creature pleading for help. He stepped forward slowly. Every movement was cautious, every step measured. The mother dragon watched him, unblinking, as if judging whether he could be trusted. The cub, weak and shivering, took a few steps on its own, then collapsed onto the soft ground. Elias instinctively ran forward and scooped the small creature into his arms. The mother dragon gave a low, trembling sound that almost sounded like crying. Elias had never heard anything like it. His chest tightened. He realized she was not just afraid for herself. She was mourning, terrified that her cub might die. Inside the outpost, the medical bay was not equipped for something like this. Its scanners and tools had been designed for human use, maybe some alien flora or small fauna, but nothing on this scale. Elias set the cub down gently and tried to scan it anyway. The machine beeped uncertainly, failing to read the creature's vitals properly. The cub's heart beat erratically, too fast and too weak at the same time. Elias looked out the window. The mother dragon had not moved. She remained on the plateau, massive wings wrapped around her body like a protective cloak. She was waiting, watching every action Elias took. The connection between them was undeniable. It was as if she was telling him, without words, that the cub's life depended entirely on him. The human outpost suddenly felt very small. Outside, a storm was forming in the valley, but Elias hardly noticed. He focused only on the tiny, fragile life in his hands. He could feel the heat radiating from the cub, the shallow rise and fall of its chest, the rapid flutter of its small wings. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. The dragon did not move closer, but Elias could sense her trust growing. She had chosen him. In all the universe, in all the galaxies, she had chosen a human to save her child. Elias swallowed hard. He had faced many challenges in his life: storms, equipment failures, hostile wildlife, but nothing like this. This was bigger than any mission, bigger than any exploration. This was a test, not of strength or skill, but of heart. Could he help something no one else could? Could a human save a creature that the galaxy had never truly understood? The mother dragon lowered her head slightly, almost bowing. Her eyes never left his. Elias nodded, silently promising her that he would do everything in his power. The cub gave a weak squeak and Elias tightened his hold. This was just the beginning. Nothing about this night would be ordinary again. In that moment, a human and a dragon, two completely different species, formed a bond that would change more than just their lives. It would change the way the galaxy saw humanity forever. Elias carefully carried the tiny cub into the medical bay. The little dragon's body was fragile, its scales soft and warm against his hands. He had never seen a creature like this. Its heart beat fast but unevenly, and its breaths came in short, shaky gasps. No human medicine or technology seemed ready for such a being. He set the cub down on the examination table and activated every sensor he had. The machines beeped and whirred, scanning the creature. But the readouts were confusing. Its biology did not match any species Elias knew. Its heart was larger than a human's but weaker than a bird's. Its lungs were simple but its energy levels were immense. He frowned, trying to make sense of it. The cub opened its small eyes and looked at him, frightened and weak. Elias knelt beside it. "I won't let you die," he whispered. "I promise. I'll find a way to help you." He ran scans again, searching for injuries or sickness, but the cub's body was not broken. There were no wounds, no infections, nothing that human medicine could treat. Elias frowned harder. If the cub wasn't hurt, why was it so weak? Then he noticed something strange. A faint glow surrounded the cub's chest, pulsing slowly. It was faint, almost invisible, but it seemed to fade every few seconds. Elias leaned closer, studying it. He remembered reading about dragons in old archives, tales of creatures tied to the life force of planets. Could it be true? Could this cub be losing its connection to its home world? Elias's mind raced. If the cub had been born far from its planet, maybe it could not survive without that energy. That would explain why it was so weak. His heart ached. The thought that this tiny life might end in his hands so far from its home was almost unbearable. He looked out the window. The mother dragon had not moved. She remained on the plateau, watching every action. Her massive eyes were full of worry and fear. Elias felt a wave of responsibility. She had trusted him with her child. He could not fail. He thought about the stories humans told about dragons. They were creatures of power, often feared, almost like gods. Yet this mother had come to him for help. She had chosen him. That realization made Elias's chest tighten. He had to find a way. He walked to the lab storage room and examined every piece of equipment he had. Most were built for humans or small animals, but maybe, just maybe, he could modify something to help the cub. He found a portable energy generator, the kind he used to stabilize environmental fields for terraforming experiments. It could produce a small, controlled energy field. Elias had an idea. If dragons drew life from planetary energy, maybe he could simulate the energy of the cub's home world. It would be risky. The generator was not made for living creatures, and overloading it could destroy the lab. But he had no choice. He carefully set the generator near the examination table and adjusted the settings. A soft hum filled the room as the field turned on. A faint glow appeared around the cub, brighter than before. Elias held his breath. The little dragon twitched. Its chest rose slightly higher. Outside, the mother dragon let out a low, trembling sound. Elias looked up at her through the observation window. She was watching, her head tilted, her eyes filled with hope and fear. She seemed to understand what he was doing, trusting him to save her cub. Minutes passed. The cub's breathing became more regular. Its tiny wings moved slightly, and the glow around its chest pulsed stronger. Elias's heart lifted. He was doing it. Somehow, the cub was responding to the energy field. Still, he could not relax. The generator was straining, and the lab systems were warning him of overload. One wrong move, one spike in energy, and the cub could be harmed instead of helped. He adjusted the field carefully, balancing risk and reward with every small change. The cub opened its eyes wider and looked at him. For the first time it seemed aware, almost curious. Elias smiled. He had never felt so connected to another life. The bond between him and the little dragon was growing stronger with each passing second. Outside, the mother dragon shifted, her massive wings stretching slightly. She made a soft rumbling sound that echoed across the valley. Elias felt it in his chest, a vibration full of gratitude and trust. He nodded to her, silently promising that he would not stop until her cub was safe. As the hours passed, the cub's strength slowly returned. Its breathing steadied, its chest glowed steadily, and it moved with a bit more energy. Elias knew this was only the beginning. The cub was not fully healed, and it might never survive without being returned to its home energy. But for now it was alive. And the mother dragon had placed her faith in a human. Elias realized that this moment was more than a medical challenge. It was a test of trust, courage, and compassion. The galaxy might never have seen such a bond before, a human and a dragon connected by hope and determination. Elias looked at the cub, then at the mother dragon outside. He whispered again, softly but firmly, "I will not fail you. I will save your cub." And in that moment he knew he was ready for whatever came next. The impossible visitor had arrived and the impossible task had begun. Elias sat beside the cub, watching its chest rise and fall. It was stronger than before but still far from fully healthy. The faint glow around its body was steady now, but it was clear that the little dragon needed more than temporary energy to survive. It needed its homeworld connection, something Elias could not reach from this remote outpost. He ran his hands over the cub's small, fragile scales, thinking hard. There were no medicines, no treatments in the galaxy for this. Human science had never faced a creature like this. But humans had something else: ingenuity, the ability to think, adapt, and create solutions no one had imagined. Elias had to try. He walked to the storage bay and gathered every piece of equipment that could generate energy. He pulled in environmental shields, field generators, and terraforming modules. Alone, in his small lab, he began building a system to simulate the cub's home planet energy. It was risky. One mistake could destroy the outpost or worse. But he had no other choice. The mother dragon waited outside, watching silently. Elias could feel her presence, her trust. She had come to him, hoping he could save her cub. That trust was heavier than any machine he had ever carried, and it pushed him to work faster, think harder. He connected the generators, arranging them around the medical table like a protective circle. The machines hummed and whirred, and the lab filled with a soft, golden light. Elias adjusted settings, trying to mimic what he had learned from his scans of the cub. The energy needed to feel natural, comforting, not overwhelming. Too little and it would fail. Too much and it could harm the tiny dragon. The cub stirred, sensing the growing energy around it. Its small wings twitched and its eyes opened wider. Elias whispered, "Almost there. Stay with me." He could feel the tension building not just in the lab but in the valley outside. The mother dragon shifted on the plateau, wings spread, watching every movement. Elias knew she was holding herself back, trusting him entirely. Hours passed. Elias carefully monitored every reading. The cub's energy was improving slowly. Its chest glowed more brightly, and it started to move its legs as if testing its strength. Elias felt a surge of hope, but he could not celebrate yet. The system was fragile, and one miscalculation could destroy everything. Outside, the valley grew quiet. The usual sounds of wind and wildlife seemed to pause, as if the world itself was watching. The mother dragon lowered her head, letting out a soft, rumbling sound. It was not a roar of anger but a sound of encouragement, almost like she was telling Elias, "You can do this. I trust you." Elias smiled faintly, feeling the weight of that trust. He worked carefully, adjusting the energy flow to match the cub's responses. The little dragon's chest glowed brighter, and it stretched its wings for the first time. Elias's heart leapt. He had never seen such a small creature show so much courage. Suddenly alarms went off. The energy field was nearing its limit. The machines were straining. If Elias did not act fast, the system could fail and the cub could be hurt again. Sweat ran down his face as he made split-second adjustments, balancing the energy like a tightrope walker. The cub twitched, then began to glow steadily, brighter than ever. Its tiny wings lifted slightly, and it gave a soft squeak of life. Elias exhaled, relief flooding through him. He had done it. The human mind, working with determination and care, had stabilized the little dragon. The mother dragon let out a long, deep rumble of what seemed like joy. She lowered her massive head to the ground, her eyes softening. For the first time she allowed herself to relax, knowing her cub was safe, thanks to a human. Elias stepped back, breathing heavily, feeling a bond he had never experienced before. He knew this was only the beginning. The cub still needed its homeworld energy to survive fully. But Elias had shown that humans were not weak or helpless. With intelligence, courage, and care, they could accomplish what no one else dared to try. For the first time, Elias looked at the mother dragon and realized something. She was not just a creature of myth. She was intelligent, aware, and capable of deep emotion. And she had chosen humans as her partner, her hope. That was more powerful than any weapon, more valuable than any technology. He whispered softly to the cub, "You're going to be okay. I'll take care of you until you can return to your world." The little dragon blinked at him, wings fluttering slightly. Outside, the mother dragon watched, her massive form still, but her eyes full of trust and gratitude. The galaxy might never have seen this. A human, small and fragile compared to a dragon, had saved a life that many would have considered impossible to save. Elias understood that this was more than a medical achievement. It was a proof of what humans could do. With determination, intelligence, and compassion, they could face challenges no other species could. And as the night sky stretched across the valley, the human, the cub, and the mother dragon shared a quiet moment. A bond had formed, stronger than any fear, stronger than any barrier. And the galaxy, even if it did not yet know it, was about to see the rise of something new: humanity, a species capable of compassion, courage, and the impossible. The valley was quiet now, but the tension in the air was thick. Elias stood beside the little cub, watching it stretch its tiny wings. Its glow was steady, and its chest rose and fell evenly. For the first time since the dragon mother had arrived, Elias felt a sense of hope. But he also knew the hardest part was not over. The cub needed to survive fully, and the galaxy was watching. News of the dragon mother and her cub had spread fast. Sensors on distant colonies picked up unusual energy readings, and communications networks buzzed with speculation. The world had never seen anything like this. Aliens, dragons, humans working together. It was more than news. It was history in the making. The mother dragon remained outside, massive and still, but her eyes followed every move Elias made. She had grown calm, trusting him completely. Her body radiated a quiet strength that made Elias feel both awe and pressure. The cub looked up at her and squeaked softly as if calling for its mother. Elias nodded reassuringly. "You're safe now," he said. "We're going to fix this." He returned to the generators, adjusting the energy field carefully. The machines hummed, lights flickering as they worked to simulate the cub's homeworld energy. He monitored every reading, making sure the flow was steady, balanced, and strong enough to sustain life. The cub's body responded immediately, glowing brighter with each adjustment. But just as Elias began to relax, the lab shook. Warning alarms blared. The energy field was approaching its limit. One wrong adjustment could destroy the equipment, or worse, harm the cub. Elias's mind raced. He could not risk stopping now. The mother dragon outside rumbled in warning, wings flexing as if to protect the lab. Elias steadied himself and adjusted the field. Slowly, carefully, he redistributed the energy. The glow around the cub intensified, spreading evenly through its body. The little dragon lifted its head, blinking as if seeing the world for the first time. Elias held his breath. This was a delicate balance. One mistake and all would be lost. Outside, the mother dragon shifted. Her massive wings stretched wide, and her eyes sparkled with something Elias had never seen before: hope. She had trusted humans with her child, and now she watched as they proved worthy of that trust. Her low rumble filled the valley, echoing across the mountains like a song of reassurance. Minutes turned into hours. The energy field stabilized, the cub's glow became steady, and it started to move more confidently. Elias adjusted the machines with precision, following the cub's responses. The little dragon's tiny wings flapped slightly, and its chest glowed warmly. The bond between human and dragons, mother and child, was undeniable. Then, without warning, a massive energy wave pulsed outward from the lab. The valley shimmered as the cub's restored energy radiated beyond the outpost. Sensors detected it immediately. Dragons across nearby systems responded, their wings beating as they felt the pulse. Something incredible was happening. The little cub, with the help of a human, was sending a signal of life that other dragons recognized. Elias watched, amazed. His heart swelled. Humans had been called weak, fragile, incapable of surviving in the galaxy's harshest places. Yet here he was, standing between life and death, stabilizing a creature thought impossible to save. He realized in that moment that humanity's strength was not in weapons or ships. It was in courage, intelligence, and heart. The mother dragon let out a low, joyful roar. The sound vibrated through the valley, reaching every mountain and tree. She lowered her head slightly, touching her snout to the lab's observation window. Elias smiled faintly, nodding. He understood her gratitude. She had trusted him, and he had honored that trust. Across the galaxy, colonies and space stations began picking up signals of the cub's restored energy. Messages poured in, reporting dragons sensing a safe connection with humans. The galaxy had never seen such a moment. Humans, for the first time, were not just observers, they were active participants in the lives of creatures far stronger and older than they were. Elias returned to the cub and gently stroked its scales. It squeaked softly, wings fluttering. Outside, the mother dragon lowered herself to the ground, massive claws digging lightly into the soil, her eyes soft and shining. Elias realized this was more than a rescue. It was the beginning of something new. Humans were no longer small and fragile. They could rise to challenges that no one expected. They could form bonds with the galaxy's strongest creatures, proving their worth. The little dragon blinked up at him, then at its mother. Its tiny wings lifted slightly as if testing its strength. Elias knew the day would come when it could fly again, maybe even return to its world. But for now it had survived, and that was enough. He looked out at the mother dragon, her massive body still, but her eyes filled with pride. The galaxy held its breath, watching, waiting to see what would happen next. Humans had acted where others would have failed. They had shown courage, compassion, and ingenuity. And Elias understood something deep in his heart. The galaxy was changing, and humanity would be at the center of that change. One small human, one fragile cub, and one massive mother dragon had already begun to rewrite history. The night sky stretched across the valley, calm and infinite. The cub rested, the mother watched, and Elias stood between them, a human who had faced the impossible and succeeded. Somewhere in the galaxy, other dragons sensed it. Other humans would hear the story. And for the first time, everyone understood that when humans faced the impossible with heart and courage, they could hold the attention and trust of even the mightiest beings. Elias watched as the little dragon stretched its wings for the first time. The glow around its chest was steady, warm, and strong. The cub had survived. The energy field, carefully balanced by human ingenuity, had done its work. But this was only the beginning. Elias knew the cub would never be fully strong without returning to its homeworld energy. That would take time, planning, and careful guidance. Outside, the mother dragon lowered her massive head and touched the cub gently with her snout. The cub squeaked happily and nuzzled her in response. Elias smiled faintly, feeling a mix of pride and wonder. He had done what many thought impossible. He had saved life, bridged a gap between species, and gained the trust of one of the galaxy's most powerful creatures. News of the event had already begun spreading. Nearby colonies and even distant space stations picked up the unusual energy signatures and transmissions from Elias's outpost. The galaxy had never seen anything like this, a human stabilizing a dragon's life. Scientists and leaders debated, diplomats argued, and the public watched in awe. Humans were no longer small observers. They had become participants in something that could change the universe. The mother dragon lowered herself fully, resting on the valley floor, her massive wings folded carefully around her body. She looked at Elias with eyes that seemed almost human in their depth. Gratitude radiated from her, a silent message he could feel in his chest. He had not only saved her cub, he had proven that humans could be trusted. The cub chirped and hopped onto Elias's knee, tiny claws pressing lightly against his uniform. He laughed softly, a sound that echoed in the quiet lab. The dragon looked at him as if understanding, and Elias knew that the bond formed in these hours would last for a lifetime. For the first time, humans were not just capable of surviving in the galaxy, they were capable of earning the trust of its oldest, strongest, and most powerful creatures. But the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The mother dragon's energy pulsed faintly across the valley, touching other dragons in nearby systems. Slowly, other dragons responded. They did not approach in anger or curiosity, but with awareness and attention. They had sensed the cub's restored life, and they recognized the human who had made it possible. Elias understood the importance of the moment. Humans had often been underestimated. Their weapons were small, their fleets limited, their colonies fragile. Yet here was proof that humans could act where others could not. They could approach challenges with intelligence, courage, and compassion. In the presence of creatures that could crush worlds, humans had shown strength of a different kind, strength of heart. The mother dragon rose slightly, wings unfurling, and let out a long, low roar. It was a sound of approval, pride, and joy. Elias felt it in his chest like a vibration, like a wave of energy connecting him to the creature. The cub squeaked in response, small but confident. Together, they formed a scene no one in the galaxy would forget. A human standing beside dragons, respected and trusted. Elias realized something incredible. Humans had always looked up at the stars with curiosity and ambition, but now they had earned something far more meaningful. Trust, respect, recognition from beings stronger, older, and wiser than any human could imagine. In one quiet valley on a distant planet, humanity had proven its value, not through weapons nor politics nor power, but through heart, courage, and ingenuity. The mother dragon bent her head, allowing Elias to step closer. He extended a hand and she touched it lightly with her snout. It was a gesture that spoke louder than any words: recognition, trust, and alliance. The cub hopped closer, nuzzling his hand in a way that made Elias laugh softly again. The valley was quiet, but the galaxy would never forget this moment. For the first time, dragons and humans shared an understanding. It was not one of fear, nor domination, nor control. It was mutual respect. Elias looked at the cub and then at the mother dragon. He knew the little dragon would grow strong, perhaps strong enough to fly back to its homeworld one day. But he also knew the bond between humans and dragons had already begun to change the universe. Word would spread. Humans would be seen differently as creatures capable of more than survival. They could be allies to dragons, protectors of life, and mediators between worlds. In a universe full of powerful beings, humans had earned a place, not through fear or weapons but through trust and courage. The mother dragon lowered herself again, resting, but her eyes never left Elias. The cub lay beside her, glowing softly, its tiny wings fluttering gently. Elias knelt, stroking its back. He whispered softly, "We did it. You're safe now. And one day you'll return home." The sky above stretched endlessly, stars twinkling as if the universe itself had paused to witness this. And in that quiet moment, one small human, one fragile cub, and one enormous dragon had rewritten history. The galaxy had learned something new. True strength was not measured by size, speed, or firepower. True strength was courage, compassion, and trust. And humanity, for the first time, had shown the universe exactly what that meant. As the night stretched on, Elias looked at the dragons and felt a quiet pride. The impossible had been done. Life had been saved, trust had been earned, and the galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. The cubs slept, the mother watched, and Elias stood between them, a human who had changed the universe. And somewhere in the stars, dragons and humans would remember this day forever, the day a human proved that even the smallest among them could do the impossible.